Welcome, and thank you for taking your first step towards becoming a volunteer at Familia. I'm Alison, and this is my colleague.
Nora, and our training will be taken in different sections. Each section will have their own questions for you to answer afterwards.
But don't worry, you don't have to do it all at once. The training is designed to be self-paced. The most important part is that you familiarize yourself with the most important concepts of volunteering as well as our activities at Familia.
Hope to see you soon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our volunteer training. A few tips before we get started. Please find yourself a comfortable and quiet position. Open both the presentation and the worksheet on your laptop. After each segment, please fill in the questions before you continue. Let's get started. So our agenda for today would be covering what Familia does, and then we're going to dive into what it means to be a volunteer and all the responsibilities associated with that. After that, we will cover peer facilitation, and at the end of that segment, we would encourage you to just take a pause, reflect on what you have learned, and then fill in the worksheet that you have. After that, we will continue to our group model, which comprises of communication, boundaries, and group dynamics. If at any point in time you need a break, please feel free to step away as you are able to control your pace on this course. Let's jump right in. So who are we? Familia is one of the oldest organizations in Finland, and we specialize in intercultural families. We were founded in 1988, and just last year we celebrated our 35th birthday. Our goal is to make improvements in the social and legal systems and to meet the needs of intercultural and multilingual families and Finnish people. Our organization is funded by STEA as well as the City of Helsinki. So our area of work comprises of many different things. How we do the things we do is our Finnish language courses. We have training, events, and projects. We offer clubs, workshops, and peer groups, which is mainly reliant on our volunteers, and hopefully that is where you come in. We also have a membership, and currently we have around 1,869 members. So if you're interested, remember to sign up for our members as well. Who are we offering our service for? It is for intercultural families, professionals, and of course, most importantly, you, our volunteers. And what we do is we have couples relationships, we deal with family, bi or multilingualism, integration, employment, and well-being. Some examples of our peer support groups are the following. We have our popular Duo Mother and Baby group, and that is intended for mothers and babies under the age of 1 year old. Our Duo Toddler group caters for children between the ages of 1 and 3. Our Duo Living Rooms is more like a family cafe, and so it's open for families or anybody to just come and hang out in a safe environment, which we would go through different topics that would relate to being in an intercultural relationship. We have our Duos Fathers. That's a group where fathers can also gain some support on their journey. We have our Intercultural Separation group, and that aims at supporting people who are in the process of going through a separation or a divorce. And we have Duo Job Hunting, which is also one of our more popular groups, and that is to provide support to people who are searching for employment. The group aims to increase your network in connecting with other professionals, as well as finding people who really just understand what you are going through. So our Duo Integration group is a bit different because often as immigrants in Finland, all our focus is about learning the language and finding employment. So when do we have fun? That's when our Duo Integration Support group comes in. Here we try to focus more on the social aspect of finding your community, exploring the Finnish culture. So just a little bit different to what our employment groups are. Our groups can either be open or closed, and that is up for you as the volunteer as well as your participants to decide together. In addition to our peer support groups, we also offer workshops and clubs, and the structure is slightly different. And don't worry, further on we will go through exactly what the difference is between our peer groups and our clubs and workshops. Clubs and workshops are a bit shorter, and it really could range from anything. Some examples in the past and what we currently have ongoing would be book clubs, art workshops, yoga for kids, mental health club, mushroom hunting. The possibilities are really endless. All our volunteer activities is based on what our volunteers are interested in and their strength. So at this point in time, I would like you to start thinking already if any of these things appeal to you. Within Familia, we also have two independent projects running as well. That is our Munduo project and our Bilingual project. Our Munduo focuses on our intercultural youth, and the activities is predominantly planned for youth between the ages of 13 to 29 years old. So if that's an area that you're interested in, please check out Munduo's page, which has all the information of its upcoming events and activities. Our second project that we have running is our bilingual language clubs, and that is intended for children under the age of 6 years old, and it provides a space where parents and their children can come together and play in the language that is not as strong as Finnish at home. Currently, we have about 17 different clubs running, so please feel free to check out more about Bilingual on their social pages as well. At this point in time, I would like you to take a pause and turn to your worksheet and just answer some questions that we have below. After that, we're going to jump straight into volunteering and what it means. Welcome back. And now we are going to dive in. What does it mean to be a volunteer? I'd like you to take a moment and just pause to see and think about what inspired you to become a volunteer. Volunteering can be done for many different reasons, but let's think what inspired you to choose this path. We're going to continue on to the basic definition of volunteering, which is an act of helping or supporting another person or people without receiving financial compensation for it. And I would have to stress the financial compensation part, because in essence that is what volunteering is. And at Familia, we are not able to offer, while we offer a range of other benefits for volunteering, we are not able to offer any financial compensation for it. Responsibilities lie on both parts, on the part of Familia as well as of the volunteer. So we'll just go through some of that. At Familia, we are responsible for providing you with training, and thank you for taking your first step today. We will, in addition to this training, have more other trainings that would help you, assist you on your volunteer journey. We are here to support you. You are never alone. There will always be a staff member that will be there to assist you throughout your journey and also your activities. In Familia, we also cover some of the cost for running the group, so at no means do we expect you to use your own money. So often each group or activity will be assigned a small amount of money in which you could use to help the activities of your group. Another important aspect is that while you are a volunteer member of Familia, you are also covered by insurance. So should anything happen to you during your volunteer activities, you would also be covered by insurance. As a volunteer, from your side, we would expect commitment. Of course, life happens and we know there are things we can't account for. However, if you do decide to do a peer support group or an activity, we trust that you would be committed to the whole process. Another huge responsibility would be confidentiality that you would need to maintain with the participants in your group. Often, sensitive information is shared, and whatever happens in the group stays in the group. There would be incidences where we would ask you to break this, but we'll cover that later on. And then lastly, keeping Familia or whichever premises you use clean and tidy. So please be mindful that often we are doing our activities in shared spaces, and we would require that the volunteers then clean up after their activities. Now that we've discovered the serious responsibilities, let's have a chat about different ways you can volunteer with us. As previously mentioned, we have our peer support groups, and these groups run within 6 to 8 meetings. You would decide on the topics together with your participant, and so normally the duration of the group is what sets it apart. Clubs can be anything from 3 to 5 meetings. Workshops can be once off, it can be a workshop series, for example, and it generally lasts around 2 hours. If you don't have that much time, not to worry, we also have events and exhibitions that you can join us in. For example, we have Maculasta, which is the World Village Festival. We have a TAT, another famous football tournament going on. And throughout the year, we have different events that you could also then join us for the event. We have social media and communications. So we are always keen to have our volunteers' voices heard. So if that is the thing that you are most interested in, contact us and we'll find something for you to do. So let's cover, how does this work? So in essence, all groups and activities function basically the same way. You would first choose an activity of interest to you. We would then try to pair you up, or hopefully if you do have someone in mind you would like to work with, that would be great. We prefer that our activities are done in pairs, so that just kind of gives you that extra support that you need. And in case anything happens to you, of course, your pair would still be able to continue the activity. Once you have your pair, we then decide on logistics, and that would be like the location, the time, how often you're going to meet, all the other aspects around that. The final step is that we would then advertise on all our social media platforms, and throughout this process, you will be assigned to a coordinator who will assist you throughout the way. So don't worry, we're not going to say like, okay, now you've decided to do job hunting. There you go. We have many resources at our disposal as well, and everything will be shared with you. So rest assured, as a volunteer, you are never alone. There will always be a staff member assigned to you to help you through this process. At this point in time, we're going to take a pause and go back to our worksheet and answer some of the following questions related to volunteering. Welcome back. We are now going to cover peer facilitation. In this block, we're going to cover what are the basics of peer support. We're going to look at some key concepts as well as safer space and how we deal with our communications and our boundaries in peer support. What do peers mean? Peers are people sharing a common experience, and peer support is the support and exchange of experiences from one peer to another in an interactive environment or situation. And because all our groups are peer support groups, it is very important to highlight this, that when we are volunteering, we are not acting in an expert capacity. Regardless of what your educational background might be, when you are being a peer, it means that we are on the same level as the participants and we're merely sharing our experiences with them. So it's very important. Sometimes as volunteers we can often feel overwhelmed and we feel, oh no, like we want to help and we need to solve people's problems. But that is not peer support. We are not here to solve people's problems. We are here to give them a safe space and a platform to express their needs, and we are here to offer them services and guidance that we can. But at no point in time should we feel that we are the experts in the situation. And that is where peer support comes from. Why is peer support so important in improving well-being? Well, it empowers people to share their stories. It gives a safer space for us to be able to open up and come together as a community. Next up, we have our key concepts, and we are focusing on two-way support and self-direction. Volunteering is a two-way support. So peers and volunteers can give and receive support. So it goes back to what peer support is, where we are on the same level. And so we are both able to learn from our participants and the experience, and in the same way, also giving them our experiences. And in helping other people, peers may be able to feel a sense of purpose and gain support for their own activities. Self-direction. Peers can choose and control how they wish to be involved in the peer support. And what we mean by this is that your participants in your group or workshop that you are running, they are free to decide how much they want to share, what role they are willing to take if you would like to share some tasks, or how long they would like to stay in the group. Sometimes this might be a bit difficult as a volunteer, but please don't take it personally. We have to know that we are all different, and because we come from so many different cultures, and while our activities may be in English, or whichever language you use, it's not always the native language. And even when using a common language, people can still become confused in terms of the tone or the meaning of it. So it's very important to know that even though you have planned a certain session, the participants could possibly take it the other way or in another direction. And we hope that as a volunteer, you would have that skill to be flexible and to help your participants guide you. Next up, we are going to talk about safer spaces. And we say safer spaces because no space is in essence really a safe space. So you will receive a code of conduct once you complete your training as well. And we have our different guidelines with safer space. So a safer space is a space where everybody feels comfortable and safe to be themselves and share the experiences, views and opinion. And this is really key when running a peer support group, because we want our participants to feel that they are able to open up. And remember, as we mentioned, the confidentiality aspect. So we want our participants to know that whatever happens in the group stays in the group and that everybody respects this. It's very important for you to familiarize yourself with our safer space principles. And we also encourage that when you meet for the first time as a group, you also go through these principles with your group members as well. I'll just touch on some of them. To be respectful at all times. So that could also include respecting people's physical and emotional boundaries. Again, I always get back to that we are all from different backgrounds, so the same thing can mean something different for someone else. Ensuring confidentiality and privacy. It is important that members feel safe to share. Do not make assumptions or generalizations, and I think this is a hard one for everyone, but as long as we are aware of it, we can try and work on not making generalizations. The most important part is to listen, to be open and tolerant. And then for our volunteers especially, take care of your own safety and needs. And later on, we are going to discuss boundaries and rights of a volunteer as well. When an issue or something arises that you feel needs attention, we are then going to encourage you to get involved. So if at any time you witness any form of discrimination or bullying, even if it's in a subtle form, we would then require you to react. We do have another Safer Space Principles training which focuses on these aspects, and should you require that, feel free to reach out to us and we will go over that in detail. So what are your responsibilities as a volunteer in terms of your groups? So you can share and receive support, to encourage discussions amongst participants, and further on in our group dynamic model we will give you examples on how to do that, to empower your participants, and then to keep your word. And with keeping our word, what we mean is that if you have promised a participant that you would get back to them with some resources, or you would find out something, or it could be anything really, we just ask that you would stick to that. And then lastly, but also importantly, is to maintain the safety of the group. That is not only the physical safety, but as well the emotional safety of the group as well. So as a volunteer, we ask you to be mindful of these things. Your duty to report. And while I have stressed the importance of confidentiality in the group, there might be instances when something happens and you're not sure to deal with it. Then this is the part where we ask you, always be in touch with us if you have any doubt. So should you feel that the conversation may became a bit too intense and you are not sure how strongly the participant was reacting, or if they said something that has you somewhat concerned, in those instances, we will ask you to please contact a familiar staff member. So you could reach out to me or to the coordinator that's dealing with you and kind of just check if everything is okay. Also, if you have any concerns that there's some difficulties in the group is not possibly gelling well, or really anything that somewhat makes you not feel comfortable, at that point in time, we always urge you to reach out to us.
Hello, Nora's going to be with you in this section. In this section, we're going to be talking about group model, active listening, and boundaries. How to communicate with others, meaning, do you know what is active listening? Have you practiced empathy? And what is the basis of healthy communication and peer relationship, and what can influence communication and group dynamics? At first, we will talk about active listening. In this section, you will have a link to a YouTube video, so please pause and watch the video and answer a couple of questions. So did you reflect on that video? How did you feel about it? Did you notice what happened? Do you feel that there was a hint of empathy? And how did it change? How did the conversation change after the empathy came out? Did you see the difference between active listening and trying to listen and try to solve the problem? Now, this video is very related to what we often see in our work as volunteers. Many people come to peer support groups just to be heard. Some of them are not even looking for answers. Many of them have their answers ready. They just need to talk so those answers would come forward. So if you try to push your own knowledge, your own opinions, how to save them, how to help them, they will pull back. They will not want to be. They won't feel that they are listened. Also, you need to remember active listening means listening without judgment, listening without interruptions, listening with open mind. Not everyone thinks like we do. Everyone has their own way of thinking, their own solution base. So going into listening with an open mind and empathizing by repeating what the other person is saying. I hear what you say. Oh, do you mean this? Do you feel this way? Or how do you feel exactly? Oh, that sounds really difficult. I hope I could help you. Would you like me to help you in any way? Those kind of answers can always make the person feel that they are listened to, and that's what we call active listening with empathy. Now you could pause and answer the couple of questions in the worksheet. Next, we will be talking about boundaries. So what are boundaries? Boundaries are a set of guidelines or limits that a person creates to help themselves to identify their own safe and permissible ways for other people to behave around them, and how they will respond when someone steps outside those limits. We all should have those boundaries. Personal boundaries are built out of mixed beliefs, opinions, attitudes, past experience, and social learning. So the boundaries are very different between a person and another. Boundaries define who we are and as individuals by helping us to create ownership and protect ourselves. Personal boundaries can be difficult to see and navigate when we consider our relationships, but they are crucial when we think about our role as peer support. Healthy personal boundaries is like taking responsibility for your own actions and emotions while not taking responsibility for the actions or emotions of others. As a peer facilitator, we strongly encourage you to think about your own personal Bill of Rights, your own boundaries, in other words. A Bill of Rights is a personal document to remind ourselves of our personal rights and getting clear about how we deserve to be treated by others, feel safe, respected. I'd like you to pause now and in the worksheet, fill up the part where you explain about your own boundaries. Take your time, think about it. Think at least about 3 different rights that you would like to add on your Bill of Rights. I hope you found some. Don't be shocked when you see that these boundaries change in time. Today, I might not be okay with a person hugging me. I don't know them. I just started the group. But maybe after meeting them 3-4 times, I feel that I know them and I would like to be hugged by them. I would like to return the hug to them, which they also would like to have. So you can see that the boundaries can change by time, and it is very important for you to recognize that. Keep a note for yourself. Remind the group of each one's boundaries, and this could be always a good way to start any group. Putting a Bill of Rights of the group, everybody decides what they feel safe in and what they don't, and go over those rights, go over those conditions every single meeting and see if anything changes. Another part of boundaries comes into saying no. Many of us have a problem in doing that. I know myself, I've had problems and I still struggle quite often. But knowing your own right and your own boundaries, you have to know that you could say no. If you feel uncomfortable about saying no as a straight answer, you could always do as a gentle refusal. So instead of going straight away, no, you actually go through steps. So there are 3 steps in the gentle refusal. I'll use an example and that you could follow in most of the cases. The first step is reflecting. The second step is refusing. And the third step is offering an invitation. So let's imagine someone came to you from the group that you are running and asked to borrow money. So you reflect. You think about it, you think about your feelings, about the needs, their feelings, their needs. So you understand that they are in emotional, difficult situation and you don't want to say a harsh no. So you could say that I know how you feel. It's really difficult feeling to go through a difficult situation. You acknowledge what they're going through. And then when you refuse, you can tell them that I'm very sorry, but Familia's rules to their volunteers says that I'm not allowed to give money or lend money to anybody. So this way you refused, but you refused them gently. You did not say the harsh no, which you might be feeling uncomfortable about saying. You can say it's against Familia's policy. It's I'm not able to do that. I myself not doing well financially, so I have nothing to offer. You could use many different ways to say no. And we do allow you to use Familia's name if you feel uncomfortable about to use your own reasons. You can always say that Familia has rules and regulations and this one rule doesn't allow this. Then you do offer an invitation to them. Offering an invitation means you let them come closer, see more solutions. So you let them know that you are willing to help them. So you can say, however, even though I can't help you financially, I could look for other resources. I could contact Familia to help you to find other resources. Like, give them other options. Do not leave them just with the answer of no. So this way the person feels that they have been listened to and they have not been harshly refused, and they have also been given options to solve their problem. Here you should pause and fill up the worksheet that has the questions about this segment of the training. When we talk about group dynamics, we talk about how these roles and behaviors affect the participants and the participation and also the group as whole. Group dynamics can often be very positive or can be even negative. So how do we recognize a positive or a negative group dynamic? An easy way to recognize good group dynamic is to ask yourself if the participants trust each other, if the group is progressing or going forward, resolving topics, coming up with ideas, or are they stuck, lacking creativity and focus on issues without discussing solutions? Group dynamics matter because you will have relatively short time to support the participants and create a safe and comfortable atmosphere for them, and of course for yourself. And that would give you a positive peer group dynamic. We'll go through few negative dynamics and some concrete tools for you to deal with them. So what could create a negative group dynamic? In a negative group dynamic, the participants feel unsafe and don't trust each other or feel judged. No one, therefore, dares to open up. In such groups, the participants are not in an empathetic and active listening dynamic. They focus more on giving opinions and finding solutions, even when it's not necessarily asked for. The volunteers are not flexible enough on the framework and priorities. They might prioritize the theme and plan over the discussion and participation. And this way the participants don't or can't open up in a natural way. Please pause now and fill up the worksheet. Let's dig a little bit more and let's focus on these a little bit in more details. You might encounter these situations in your group. For example, aggressive behavior or violence from one of the several participants. Now, during my work at Familia and volunteers and groups, I have never encountered one aggressive behavior as such, but we always have to be prepared for that. Somebody who might get angry and start acting aggressively. What would we do in this kind of situation? We have to think about it. Then another example would be oversharing. Somebody who would suddenly start sharing things that they don't realize that they are out of boundaries for them. So they start feeling guilty for sharing those or feeling uncomfortable because they shared those information. Of course, we have the participants who speak too much or dominate the conversation. So we have to notice that as peer facilitators and lead the way for others. We might have somebody who speaks too little. So how do we encourage them to speak more? How do we make them feel comfortable that this is a safe place where they can share if they choose to? We can find a person who just likes to give advice. So being like too directive. Anything being said, any problem that comes, the person wants to advise what is better thing to do. We could also encounter people who are upset or emotional. We don't have the control on what happens. Maybe a subject that comes up can be sensitive to some. So somebody getting upset and emotional because of that subject, we have to also take them into consideration. And then we have the overcritical who says no very often. Nothing is good enough. Why did we have to order these cookies? Why couldn't we take the other cookies? Why did we have to be here? It's too hot. There, it's too cold. They're never satisfied. The thing is, there is no right and wrong way to behave around any of these behaviors. But what we need to understand is taking each one separately. That's why we highly recommend for every volunteer to have a pair who could work with them. Because when one of these behaviors from participants could occur, one of the pairs can take that person out for a breath, a drink of water, decide how to act in this situation. And when it's needed, you will have to contact us at Familia to help you in these group dynamics. Maybe some of these might be very difficult situations for you to imagine, but I'd like you to pause and answer on your worksheet. What would you do in these two situations that are offered to you? Now remember, there is no right and wrong in these answers. You have to remember to respect and to empathize and to listen actively to the person that is going through what they're going through in those situations. Then you can discuss with your pair and decide on what would you do. Sometimes hard decisions have to be made, and somebody from the participants might not be allowed to continue, but that is very rarely. Most of our participants are very friendly, sometimes emotional, sometimes over talkative, so nothing that you have to worry about. But you always have to be ready, because it is your safety and the participants and the group. There are broad ways to improve your group dynamics. In the first session, create ground rules, the Bill of Rights for everyone. Make space for everyone to meet each other and insist on their peers' relationship. Make the group safe right from the very beginning. Expectations. You need to explain what should the group expect. People understand what they will get out of the group if you explain it to them. With empowering others, encourage the group to discover solutions for themselves. Take responsibility for their own learning and recovery. Speak to each participant directly. Address everyone by their name as often as possible. Ask questions as, how does what they just said make you feel? So if someone says something, ask the other person, and how does this make you feel? Have you been in a situation close to the one they just told us? Discuss expectations and goals of the participants, your expectations, and the peer groups. Address participants' behavior quickly and give feedback right away to Familia staff members if you are unsure of how to do it. Always contact a staff member if you have doubt or questions. We're all here to help and support you. I would like you now to pause and answer the questions in the worksheet.
Thank you for taking your time going through all the training and the material.
We will definitely be in touch with you.
Welcome to Familia!